Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Founders Grid, sponsored by Gaper.io. Today we have Joanna. Joanna is the principal at Baird Capital. Joanna, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Great to be here.
So, a brief background about yourself, what you've been doing prior to Baird Capital.
Sure. So I've spent my entire professional career at Baird, which is a mid-market investment bank and private wealth management firm headquartered out of Milwaukee, Wisconsin. I started as an equity research analyst covering semiconductor stocks and then moved into investment banking and business development at Baird. Took a short hiatus to go and get my MBA and returned and joined Baird Capital, which is our direct private investment arm where I work on our US venture fund.
Got it. And how's the journey been so far being a VC?
Well, I love being a VC. It's a very interesting line of work. It's high energy, high engagement. It's a really diversified set of activities since you get to work across a broad portfolio of companies. So I love it. It's a good fit for me. And importantly, I really love investing. So I get to work with a lot of early and mid-stage companies that again are really high energy, high growth, doing incredible things in the tech and healthcare markets where we invest. And then I get to kind of scratch that entrepreneurial itch, but then I also get to feed my soul on the investment side, which is what I really like to do.
Got it. So now kind of like trying to make the conversation much more relevant towards today's time, let's rewind to March and April of 2020, So the speculation going on in March and April was that the VCs are pulling back the term sheets, the LPs are not investing in, everyone is it was a chaos, and,
Absolutely.
And the main perception was, oh, if you're an early stage startup, you're doomed. You're not going to get funding from anyone if you're not into telehealth or telemedicine or PPEs or something like that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Then going forward in June, July, the world started getting some hope, and September, October, we've seen that the trend has started increasing again towards the early stage investment space. So back in March and April, what was your perception, and what you would have your own thinking points? Okay, I'm going to invest in this industry and not this industry. And then fast forward end of the year. So were you able to come up with the right bets?
Well, we'll see. VC is a long game. Our average hold periods.
No, I'm not sorry. Let me rephrase. I'm not talking about the investments. I'm just talking about in your mind. Okay, I'm going to go in this space, or I'm not going to go in this space, or things like those.
Yeah. So we at Baird Capital, I'd say we probably experienced a very similar reaction to a lot of folks, personally and professionally, which, there's no other way to call it other than an oh shit phenomenon in March, right? You immediately go to safety, right? So safety for yourself, for your team members, for your coworkers, for the portfolio companies, and just trying to scramble to really understand the guidance that was coming out of different entities about how to be safe and how to operate safely. And transition to doing that at home, which was something that we had never done. But from the VC lens, we had some interesting conversations that always seem to change with every 24-hour period in March about, are we going to be deploying capital at this time? Are we going to make new investments? We had an outstanding term sheet. So, are we going to honor that? How are we going to still find a way to partner with this company and this opportunity that we were really excited about kind of pre-lockdown? And we had another company that we were close to getting under term sheet. And we had some very deep conversations about, are we hitting pause on deployment entirely, regardless of industry, regardless of conviction level? Or, are we going to invest through this? And we did decide that we had high enough conviction, and, these were great companies that we were looking to partner with, that we would indeed invest in March and April. And we did. And I'm really glad we did. But at the same time, what happened was that the pipeline that you kind of referred to really dried up. in terms of new opportunities. So we were able to close and act on the opportunities that we were already actively engaged with, but new business kind of came to a halt. And it in a way, all of our attention that would have been spent on new business in April got spent on things like liquidity needs, right? So understanding PPP loans and stimulus guidance that was coming out and how it could be used in, you know, a VC-backed environment. That guidance seemed to change very frequently, so it was really hard to keep up with. You know, understanding how our debt partners or other, you know, financial sponsor partners would act and behave in that type of environment. And then, you know, spending a lot of time with our portfolio companies to see how we could stretch our cash runway, or if there were any kind of easy, immediate, low-hanging fruit type, you know, operating changes that we might be able to make in order to extend our liquidity as long as possible, since we are investing in businesses that are cash burning. Right. So there's a bit of a fuse there. So that's really where our attention shifted in those months. And then the new opportunities and investment pipeline, I'd say, came back, you know, once kind of PPP madness settled down, and we importantly saw that the customers of our portfolio companies, you know, they had similarly transitioned to working from home, and their budgets didn't necessarily evaporate overnight. You know, that wasn't the case in every company that we're involved with. It was highly dependent on what end market each company competed in or who they were selling to. But, you know, once we saw that buyers were still buying, you know, folks still needed SaaS, folks still needed, you know, healthcare solutions, all of that. You know, that's when kind of in the late May, early June, July timeframe, right, when more of the quote normal investment activity started picking back up.
True. So, okay. So now kind of like going towards, since being based out of New York, you know, WeWork has been the heart of the city. And then September 2019 onwards, you know, we all saw the news coming out of WeWork and things like those, right? Then COVID came, and, you know, so then there was a perception, okay, the co-working businesses are not going to survive. But now there's another school of thought building up with these commercial real estates and all of those, everyone giving up their big offices. Maybe the co-working business would kind of like double up. So they're kind of like two school of thoughts right now. So what's your opinion on that going forward? How do you think the co-working space would evolve?
Yeah, and it's funny, actually, as I was getting my physical mail from the mailbox yesterday, I noticed there was a postcard mailer from WeWork, which I had never received before, and I didn't know they did any direct mail campaigning. So I'm just chuckling as you're bringing that up. I thought it was very much a sign of the times, right? And it made me think about what their capacity is right now and how they're trying to attract a new customer set. You know, in terms of what I think work environments will look like, whether it's at home, fully in the office, or in a co-working type space, I think flexibility is going to be the name of the game. Excuse me. And you know, something like a WeWork or a co-working space is built on that very notion, right? That of offering flexibility to their customers and to their users. So, you know, I think that they will likely have to, you know, change some of their operations, right? And we'll need to have to allocate more square footage per each user or customer or things like that. But I absolutely think that there's a place for them in the future, because I think what we've seen through this is that everyone's personal experiences and expectations have changed dramatically in terms of how they want to work, where they want to work, when they want to work. And I don't think it's next to impossible to find two people who think exactly the same in that regard, right? So I think that companies, big and small, are going to need to offer a variety of options. And all with I think part of why they're going to need to do that is they're going to need to keep a really close eye on employee engagement. And, you know, employee happiness and satisfaction with your work environment directly feeds into engagement. And if I, Joanna Arras, want to go into a co-working space 1 to 2 days a week and then work from home 2 days a week and then work in an office 1 day a week, I'm at this point expecting that my company is going to allow me to do that. It is going to provide the resources and flexibility to do that. So I certainly don't think there's going to be a one size fits all here. I think it's going to be really driven by individual employee preferences.
True, true. Which brings me down to my last question. It's more in regards to, July, August onwards, the workaholics started feeling the burnouts, because
Mhm.
being on the Zoom calls and stuff like that. So life became just Zoom or Google Meets or Microsoft Teams or whatever technology everyone was using. And everyone, we started seeing the terms like Zoom fatigue or Google fatigues coming up in July and
Mhm.
August. Then July onwards, I remember everyone started changing their daily routines, daily habits on how to adjust, because everyone started realizing, okay, this is the new normal now. Now we need to shift the mindset. The first 3 months were kind of like scary. Then the next 3 months were adjusting. Then the next quarter was more like, okay, this is the optimum fit, right? Coming up with their own personal productivity hacks. For me, Friday is like a no calls day for me, you know, because being into sales, I'm on calls Monday to Thursday, but for me, Friday is a no phone call day for me. So, what kind of like personal productivity hacks have you adopted for your better productivity and things like those?
Interesting. Some of my hacks, it's interesting because I'm not certain that I've really thought about it, right? So directly, because exactly as you said, we've had to evolve on a weekly or monthly basis as things have changed, and as our timeline for return to whatever we thought was our steady state before continues to get pushed out, right?
True.
So and so as your mental health shifts with
Yeah.
accepting that or understanding that, right, I think that your tips and hacks change as well. What worked for you in July might not work for you now, right?
True.
For me personally, I take fitness and physical health very seriously, and so I make sure that I work out every day. And I have enjoyed that I can sneak a workout in between conference calls, which was something I was never able to do
True.
in my prior environment. So a lot of times I'll go for a run or a bike ride or something, at 2 in the afternoon, and be able to be back on a Zoom call
Yeah.
at 3 or 3:30 or something like that. So that's nice, and I think it's a good way to unplug. I think that one of the biggest things that I have that has changed my routine is that I'm not traveling right now
Yeah.
for work, and I enjoyed traveling. I was usually on the road about 2 nights per week.
Wow.
And when I traveled, that was my me time, which might sound counterintuitive,
Absolutely.
but I have a toddler, I have 2 dogs, I have a life, right,
Yeah.
in my home, and the option to go and be by myself in a hotel room
Yeah.
and sleep with, go to sleep at whatever time I want, set the alarm for whatever time I want, eat whatever I want for dinner. That was really how I recharged. And
True.
it's been interesting. I don't have that anymore, right? Or I don't have that in that way. So I think I'm still trying to find hacks to figure out that balance and get me time and alone time.
Yeah.
The best way that I've found so far is I just try to go to bed earlier. So I used to go to bed at maybe 11 at night, and now I'm trying to wind down at 9:30. I mean, please, it never actually happens, but it's a goal that I try to keep there so I can have some time to read or unwind or pretend like I'm back in that hotel room all by myself with no one bothering me.
True. I spoke to someone early in the day, and she's like, my hack is I'm going to try that for next week. So I don't watch TV at all. And she's like, for me, I just started whenever I wake up, with my morning coffee, I just put on a 20-minute show. No news, nothing, just a
Nice.
20-minute show. It kind of like brings me into the mood. Okay, the day has already started and watching TV.
That sounds so peaceful and wonderful. I wonder if I will ever have that option as long as my house is, yeah,
So it
is
kind of
like,
like reminded me of the days while growing up before going to school. So I used to
right,
watch cartoons with breakfast, then I used to jump on a
exactly.
bus and go to school. So it kind of like brought me that feeling. I'm like, huh, maybe I need that back. I have two
Oh,
kids,
that's
so
such a good
so I just
idea.
woke
I
up
like that
one day.
advice.
So I told her I'm stealing that. I'm gonna try that next year. She's like, sure. Yeah. But Joanna, thank you so much for being on the show. Take care of yourself. Stay safe. I'm sorry we could have talked longer, but we're forced to keep them within 12 to 15 minutes. Thank you so
No, that's okay. This is wonderful. Thank you so much.